All right, let's talk about a powerful, pretty much invisible force that shapes our decisions every single day. It's called conformity. We're going to dig into why we're so wired to follow the crowd, often without even realizing we're doing it.
I mean, seriously, think about it. Have you ever been in a meeting just nodding along, even when a little voice inside was saying, I don't think so? Or maybe just went with the friend group's choice for dinner because it was easier than making waves? Yeah, we've all been there. It's a completely human thing.
And let's get this straight right from the start. That feeling, that tendency, it's not a character flaw. It's not weakness, it's just human psychology. Our brains are literally built to do this, and we're about to unpack exactly why.
So, where does this all come from? Well, to get to the root of it, we have to go way, way back. The first big reason is buried deep in our evolutionary past, this primal, unshakable need to belong.
For our ancient ancestors, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Being part of the group meant everything. It meant survival. You got access to food, shelter, protection from predators. But being rejected, kicked out of the group, that meant you were alone, vulnerable, and honestly, it was often a death sentence.
And here's the wild part. That ancient software is still running in our 21st century brains. The threats have changed, sure, but that deep, gut-level fear of being cast out, that's still there. It's why, on a subconscious level, our brain will almost always prioritize belonging over being right. It just feels safer.
So if our brain's number one job is to keep us safely inside the group, what's its strategy? Well, it uses a brilliant and powerful mental shortcut. It looks for safety in numbers.
This idea has a name, and it's called social proof. It's a really simple concept, but it's incredibly powerful. Basically, in any moment of uncertainty, our brain's default setting is to just look around, see what the majority is doing, and assume that's the correct thing to do. We outsource our decision-making to the crowd. And this happens in a flash, totally subconscious. It goes like this. First, you feel uncertain. Instantly, you observe what others are doing. Then, your brain makes a lightning-fast assumption. If most people are doing it, it must be the right move. And bam, just like that, you follow the crowd.
And this is absolutely key. Social proof isn't about finding the objective truth. It's about finding emotional safety. Agreeing with the majority just feels a whole lot less stressful than standing all by yourself.
Okay, so we're wired to run towards the safety of the group. But there's another force at play, one that actively pushes us away from being different. And that is the huge, powerful fear of judgment.
It seems like such a simple question, doesn't it? But what is it really about voicing a different opinion that makes our palms get sweaty and our hearts start pounding a little faster?
Well, there's this little chain reaction that goes off in our heads. Being different attracts attention. That attention opens the door to judgment, and our brain registers that potential criticism as a genuine social threat. So the easiest way to just sidestep that whole mess? Just agree. It's the social path of least resistance.
And here's the outcome. This fear is so powerful, it can literally make us act against our own beliefs. We're on the outside, smiling and nodding, while our internal voice is just screaming, "No, wait, this isn't right."
This brings us to our final, and maybe most interesting point. This is what happens when all of these psychological forces, the need to belong, social proof, fear of judgment, all team up to create a powerful and often totally false reality.
How many times have you heard that, or even thought it yourself? Well, everyone believes this. It feels like an undeniable fact, right? Like a massive consensus that you would be crazy to question. And that thought alone is often enough to pressure us into silence.
But here's the catch. So often, that everyone is a ghost. It's not a real consensus built on independent thought. Instead, it's just a circle of people where each person is quietly looking at the next, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do.
And this is how a really fragile idea can start to look like an unbreakable truth. It spreads not because it has any merit, but simply because everyone is too afraid of the social risk of being the first one to stop and ask, "Hey, wait a second, is this actually right?"
It's this quiet cycle of silent agreement that's built on something even more subtle, something that begs a really big question.
If everyone is looking to the group for the answer, who is actually setting the direction in the first place? It's the central paradox of conformity. And it's definitely something worth thinking about the next time you feel that pull to just go with the flow.
Hidden reasons our brain just loves to follow the crowd. I mean, think about it for a sec, because we've all been there, right? You're in some situation, your gut is screaming one thing, but literally everyone else is doing the opposite. So what gives? Why do we ignore that little voice inside and just go with the flow? And the answer isn't as simple as peer pressure. No, it goes way deeper than that, right into the actual wiring of our brains. So let's pull back the curtain and look at the secret, subconscious reasons that push us to fall in line. All right, first up, the easiest path, or while your brain loves a good shortcut. And honestly, this first reason is something we can all relate to. At their core, our brains are, well, they're kind of lazy. They're wired for efficiency, always on the lookout for the path of least resistance. And you can really see the trade-off here. I mean, deep thinking, that takes work. It burns energy. Questioning things, analyzing stuff, that's a real effort. But just following what other people are doing, that's a mental shortcut. It's easy. It's like the decision has already been pre-approved for you. So really, what your brain is doing is it's kind of outsourcing the decision-making process. Why go through all the trouble of figuring something out when you can just copy what seems to be working for everyone else? It's an old evolutionary trick that helped us survive, but, in today's world, it can definitely lead us down the wrong path. Next section, safety in numbers. This is all about the comfort of being wrong together. So we're shifting gears a bit here, away from just saving energy, and more into the emotional side of things. Because it's not just about being efficient, it's about avoiding pain. And there's one specific kind of pain our brain hates, the pain of being wrong alone. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? If everyone is wrong, it doesn't feel as bad. It's so true. There's this weird comfort we get from shared failure. If you mess up with a bunch of other people, that feeling of responsibility gets spread out, The sting of being wrong just isn't as sharp when you're not the only one. And check this out. This chart basically shows you the emotional math our brain is doing in the background. Look at that first bar. The discomfort, the pain of being the only one who's wrong, it's through the roof. But look what happens when you're wrong as part of a group. That bad feeling just plummets. It's a huge difference. So what's the takeaway here? It means that a lot of the time, we're making this subconscious trade. We're choosing group safety over being personally accurate. We'd rather be wrong with everyone than risk being right by ourselves. It's this powerful, deep-seated drive for safety. Okay, let's move on. Section 3, the echo of authority, and how ideas spread and stick. So far, we've been talking about our own internal wiring, but now we need to look at the external forces at play. Because it's not just about what's going on inside your head, it's also about who's talking and how many times you hear what they're saying.
So, what is authority influence? Well, it's our tendency to follow people who seem confident or who are popular or powerful, and we often do it without even questioning them. We're just hardwired to pay attention to authority figures. When someone acts like they know what they're doing, our brain takes another one of those shortcuts and just trusts them. And yeah, that can be helpful sometimes, but boy, can it be a massive blind spot.
And this is so, so important to get. Ideas often spread not because they're right, but because the right person said them. The messenger can be way more powerful than the actual message. An idea doesn't need to be true to catch on, it just needs a boost from someone the crowd already looks up to. So how does this actually happen? Well, it's a pretty simple process. First, an authority figure says something. Step 2, lots of other people start repeating it. Now, here's the crucial part. Our brains have this glitch where they mistake repetition for truth. The more you hear something, the more familiar it feels. And that familiarity starts to feel like a fact. And before you know it, the crowd's perception becomes the accepted reality. And that really is the bottom line, isn't it? The more you hear something, the more true it feels, even if it's not. This is a real psychological phenomenon, by the way. It's called the illusory truth effect. And it's a little trick of the mind that smart marketers and politicians have known about forever. Repetition doesn't make something true, but it can sure make it feel true. Okay, time for our last section. Thinking for yourself, how to regain control. We've talked about the mental shortcuts, the fear of being isolated, the power of authority. But now for the big question. How do we do about all this? How do we break free and actually start thinking for ourselves? Now, first things first, let's get something straight. Following the crowd isn't always a bad thing. Not at all. Sometimes the crowd knows exactly what it's doing, and going along is just efficient. The real danger isn't in following. The danger is in blindly following, when you stop thinking for yourself and just go on autopilot. So what's the number one thing that makes the difference? It's just one word: awareness. That's it. Just knowing about these little psychological tugs of war happening in your brain, that desire for an easy answer, that fear of being the odd one out, that pull of a confident voice. Just being aware of them is the single biggest step you can take to get back in the driver's seat.
And listen, this doesn't have to be some huge, exhausting battle against your own instincts. It's not about that at all. It's really just about building a tiny new habit. Think of it like installing a little pause button in your mind that you can hit right before you automatically agree or follow along. It all starts the moment you ask one simple question.
And that's the question right there. Do I actually believe this? The second you ask yourself that, the spell is broken. You snap out of autopilot. You go from being a passive follower to an active thinker. And that simple question, well, that's where true independent thought really begins.